Hey Hitfilm Universe, this is Rob. We're going to get a little tutorial today on making what I'm calling peering titles. This is a title effect that you saw at the beginning of this video in which a text moves above a line and in this case also below a line at the same time. Now I think it's an elegant effect. It's a really kind of a sophisticated titling process which I hope you'll have use for, and nice to have it in your armamentarium. But more importantly, creating these titles requires some basic skills in the use of masks and also in keyframes and some of these other elements that I hope you'll find useful to have this kind of a review. So this is how this is going to work. We have a bottom title and a top title. In the beginning of the scene, before they're visible, they're going to be in the wrong positions. The bottom's going to be at the top and the top's going to be at the bottom. And the reason why they're not showing is they each have a mask that corresponds to their visibility. And the bottom mask is where the bottom should be, and the top mask is where the top should be. And so we're going to push them so the title that's underneath goes on top and the title that's on top goes on bottom. And because they're now inside their mask, it's like a little window and they'll be visible. So let's go ahead and get started. You'll see I'm using Hitfilm Pro, but nothing requires Hitfilm Pro. So please don't worry about this. You can do this in Express. I'm making a 1080p project in NTSC since I'm in the United States. And I'm going to start out in the compositing mode because it is a composite process. And we have a composite shot already created for us when we open up in this mode. Now, one thing to begin with, I would tell you is to make sure to be organized and to name things properly. This is a small project, but when you've got a big project going on, you can really get kind of confused if you don't do that, particularly if you come back to it later. So I'm going to rename this, and you can right-click to rename or hit F2, and we're going to call it peering title. Now, we're going to need to have some stuff in this media file here. I'm going to import a video that's going to help us later. So let's go ahead and we'll bring in this scuba video. So the first thing we need to do in creating this particular effect, we're going to create a new layer. It's going to be a plane, and I'm going to call this plane red line. That may seem a little bit odd, but I'm going to use this plane to create a line. It doesn't need to go across the whole frame, so we're going to downsize it. I'm going to make it 600 pixels, and then because it's a line, it doesn't need to be very tall. I'm going to make it 3 pixels. We can have it match the timeline for now. I like the red color, so we're going to say OK, and there is my red line. Now let's kind of move that out of the way because Hitfilm makes things at the 0, 0 position, and it'll be in the way if I don't get it out of the way. The next element we need is a text element, and we're going to make that, let's say 700 by 100, and we're going to click OK, and there is my text box. To enter text into the box, I've got to hit the text tool there, click there, and start typing my text. So we're going to call this from travel. Now, I don't particularly like this typeface, so I'm going to change it. I don't like the Arial look, so let's come down here and choose something like Georgia. The other thing I don't like is it's not big enough. Let's try about 67. You know, I'm going to change the color of this text. I actually want this text maybe to be a little bit on the gold side, let's say. Yeah, kind of like that one. All right, fabulous. Now I'm going to rename this, or I remember what it is, and this is actually going to be our top title. So I'm going to hit the F2 key and rename this to top title. And let's just go ahead and move it out of the way as well. Next thing we need to do is create a new layer. This one's also text. It's going to be our bottom title. And I'm going to rename it right away to bottom title. Hit my text symbol and go ahead and put in my title. Now I don't want this to also be in this gold. I want this to, maybe I'll make this one in the white. Like the white. And the size looks good. I'm happy with that. Okay. And use my select tool. And we're going to kind of park it over here somewhere. But the reality is I don't really know exactly where these need to be until I've got the reference from my video. So let's pull the video in. And here we see I have a problem. This video is in 720p, which means it's too small for this project, but there's a little resizing box here that I'm going to use to expand this out so that it allows us to use this clip in this project. Okay, so actually they're not in too bad a position either. So I'm going to select my top text. I don't want to do that. And I want to move it so it's right over the middle of my line here. That's in good position. I'm going to move my bottom text right there. That's in good position. Maybe a little bit higher. This is what we want to have happen when we're exposing or showing this text to our viewers. This is in the right position for that. I'm going to move to 2 seconds. And I'm about 4 frames off, so I'm going to just backspace 4 frames right there. And we're going to create a position keyframe for the top title. Now, keeping the head in the same position, we're going to go to our bottom title. And we're also going to create a position keyframe right there. Now the next thing I want to do is, I didn't do this before and it's going to cause us problems. I'm going to reorder these layers to make sense. I want the bottom title below the top title. I want that red line at the top. So that makes a little bit more sense to me. So that's at the 2 second point. I want the titles to be exposed in this position for 2 seconds so people have a chance to read them. So let's go out to 4 seconds. So I'm at 4 seconds and 9 frames. As you can see, 8 frames. If I just hit this back button here, I can get down to exactly 4 seconds. There's 4 seconds. I want to create a new position. So I need to highlight position, keyframe, just like that. And I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom title at the exact point on the time code. It's going to be a position keyframe, and there is my position keyframe. Now, the next thing we want to do is go back to the time code of 1 second, because that's when I want my transition to start occurring. So here we are at the 1 second time frame. And at this point, the way we're going to make this work is we're going to move the top title from the bottom up to the top and use a mask to make it visible when it's up at the top. And the opposite is what we're going to do with the bottom title. So at this point, I want the bottom title to be at the top and the top title to be at the bottom. So let's look at our positions within the characteristics. Right now, the bottom title has a Y position of 104.9. Okay. And if we look at our top title, its position is 188.1. All right. So at the 1 second point, those two need to be reversed. So I need to take the top title and I need to bring it down to 104.9. And it lines exactly up with the bottom text, which should be no surprise. And I need to pop that bottom text up to 188.1. So they're just changed positions. Okay, fabulous. And we have keyframes set because I changed the positions there. And let's go to the very beginning of our clip and let's put those keyframes, position keyframes in at the exact same positions they had. So let's go ahead and hit a keyframe here for the bottom title. And let's create a keyframe for the top title. Okay, so this is fabulous. They're in the right positions. And as we move along, they switch positions, they stay in those positions. But now I need to have them go back to their primary position. So I'm going to go out here and I'm going to have that same kind of a transition over 1 second. So I'm going to go out to 5 seconds. And I want them to go back to the positions they have at the beginning. So the top title is going to go down to 104.9. And the bottom title is going to go up to 188.1. So let's go to the beginning and see that in fact our text moves the way we expect it to move. Perfect, just exactly what we want to have happened, except I don't want to see these texts when they're in the wrong position. So that's where masking comes in. So we're going to use the timecode keyframes to make sure we're lined up at the exact right position. So we're going to go to the position here, and I'm going to use them to come right back here. And actually, we'll go to the third keyframe that we've met. This is where they're in their proper position, and I want them to be visible. So I'm going to come down, and we're going to add a mask. We're going to use the rectangular mask, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm working on the top text at the current time. So I'm going to create a mask for it, and I'm going to make it a little bit wider so that if somebody comes in and wants to change this, or I want to change it later, so that I can add a longer text without fiddling too much with the mask. And I also want to make sure that it begins right above that red line so that as the text moves above, we start to see it. So that's in good position. Now, one of the things is that we have this text on a separate layer, and that text is being set to move. My mask will move with it if I don't fix that. So we're going to go in and use the path property to create a keyframe for that text. Okay, so we've created a path keyframe right there. Now I'm going to come back up to the position and use my previous keyframe button to get me on the proper time code. And we're going to make sure that we have our mask in the right place. And at this point, the mask is at the bottom. It followed the text down below the line. That's not where we want it to be. So we're going to select our mask and move it up to the top where it should be. So we're going to bring it right up there. And we're in good position with that. And we've then set a path keyframe. And now we're going to go up to the position keyframes, although we could just go to the very beginning. And we'll see what we have as far as our keyframe position for the path. And the path is in good position. Okay, so we want to make sure we set a keyframe for path. All right, now let's go out to keyframe number 4 and make sure that we have our mask in the right position. And in fact, it is. It is exposing the top title, which we want. So we're going to create a keyframe there. And then let's go to the last keyframe, which is at the 5-second point. And let's see where our mask is. And the mask followed the text here, so we don't want that. We want to make sure that that stays above the line. So we're going to put it back up there above the line so that our top title disappears. Okay, Let's go to the very beginning and make sure everything lines up properly. And here we see the top title, it's staying there, and it's going away. Bingo, perfect. All right, now we need to repeat that process for the bottom title. So again, the bottom title, we can use the positions to get to where we need to be. The bottom title should be exposed here at the third time frame. And we need to do that by the third keyframe. We need to do that by creating a mask. So I'm going to draw a mask around the bottom title. And I'm going to nudge it up just a little bit so it's in perfect position. And we're going to set a path keyframe for the mask right there. And using the position to quickly get to the time code we want, we need to make sure the path continues to be in the right position to show the bottom title, which it does. And so here we're going to create another time keyframe. We're going to use positions so that we can move. So I'm going to move to the final one. And let's see where the mask is. And the mask is actually on the top, which we don't want because we want it to only show on the bottom. So we're going to drag it down here to the bottom. There we go. Again, use the position keyframes. Okay, now here we are at the 1 second point. And at this point, the mask needs to be moved back down below the line because it's in the wrong position. Again, moving back and checking the location of our mask. It's in perfect position. Okay, so all of the keyframes should be set and we should have a path that works for the masks. Let's just check it out. And the titles work well, but there's another problem. The red line, it stays. So let's go back to the front, and we would really not want the red line to be visible at time code 00. So I'm going to just come in here and I'm going to turn an opacity keyframe on, and I'm going to drop the opacity to 0. And then I'm going to go to the 1 second point. And at this 1 second point, that's when our transition is starting to occur. So I want that red line to be 100% visible at that point. So I'm going to increase it to 100% visibility because I want to see the transition of the text going across the line. And if you don't see the line, you're not going to see that. So I want it to be 100% visible there. And then I want it to go away only after our text has had its visibility and is retreating. So I'm actually not going to make it disappear until about let's put it at 4 and 15. I'm going to create another keyframe for opacity at 100%, and then I'm going to have it gone by the time we get to our 5 second location. Let's go ahead and render this out and see what the final product looks like. And there you have it. Everything works perfectly. So I hope you found that useful. Hopefully you learned something during the process or reinforced something that you already knew. Have a great day.